We'll be doing something a little different this time. Instead of the usual literature mini lectures, today we'll be covering ethics. So, let's start with the basics, divided into a few sections. Starting with section 1. What is ethics? Ethics is the systematic study of how we ought to live, of what is right and wrong, good and bad, just and unjust. It is not merely about personal opinions or religious doctrines, though those may inform ethical thinking. Rather, ethics is a rational inquiry into the principles and reasons that underlie our moral judgments. It'll ask questions such as, what makes an action morally right or wrong? Are moral truths objective? Or do they depend on things like culture, emotion, or individual choice? How should we act when our values conflict? At its heart, ethics is about moral reasoning, the process of justifying our beliefs about what is morally required, permissible, or forbidden. Let's move on to section 2. Ethics versus morality. It is crucial to distinguish between ethics and morality, as these terms are often used interchangeably, but have distinct meanings. Morality, for example, refers to the beliefs, norms, and practices that individuals or groups hold about right and wrong. It is the content of moral systems, such as the belief that lying is wrong or that helping others is good. Ethics, on the other hand, is the study of morality. It is the philosophical discipline that examines, analyzes, and evaluates moral beliefs and systems. Think of it this way. Morality is the what, the set of rules people follow. Ethics is the why, the critical examination of those rules. For example, a person may believe that stealing is wrong, which is a moral belief. Ethics will ask, why is stealing wrong? Is it because it causes harm, or because it violates a duty? Because it undermines trust in society, or because it reflects a lack of virtue? These are all questions that we ask. Now, section 3. The values, the foundation of moral life. Before we can speak of ethics, we must understand values, the most basic building blocks of moral life. Values are principles or standards that we hold to be important or desirable. They guide our choices, shape our character, and inform our judgments about what is good or bad. Some example values include things like justice, fairness and equality, honesty or truthfulness, compassion, the empathy for others, autonomy, the right to self-determination, and responsibility, accountability for one's actions. Now, values are not always universal. They can vary across cultures, historical periods, and individuals. But they are central to ethical reflection because they often serve as the motivating force behind moral actions. Section 4 is about the role of ethics in human life. So, why do we study ethics? Because at the end of the day, moral decisions are unavoidable. Every day we make choices that affect ourselves and others, whether in relationships, work, politics, or even technology. Ethics provides us with tools to do things like reflect critically on our beliefs, justify our actions, resolve moral conflicts, engage in dialogue with others who may hold different views, and moreover, ethics itself is not just theoretical. It has practical consequences in fields such as medicine, law, business, science, or even public policy. For example, should we allow things like euthanasia? Is it ethical to use AI in surveillance? How should we allocate scarce medical resources? These are not just philosophical puzzles, they are urgent moral questions with real-world impact. Section 5 will cover the scope of ethical inquiry. So ethics can be divided into 3 main branches, each with a distinct focus. We have normative ethics, which asks, what should we do? And focuses on developing and evaluating moral theories, such as utilitarianism, deontology, or virtue ethics, which we'll talk about more in future lectures. It aims to establish principles for determining what's right and wrong. Then we have meta-ethics. It asks, what do we mean when we say something is right or wrong? It examines the nature of moral language, truth, and reality. Some questions would be like, are moral facts real? Are moral judgments objective or subjective? And then we have applied ethics, which asks, how do ethical principles apply to real-world issues? It examines specific moral problems, like animal rights or climate change, for example. It bridges theory and practice, since it's being applied and all. In future lectures, we'll cover a few key theories. Here's a small preview of what we'll encounter as these little sessions go on. We'll have things like virtue ethics, which focuses on character and the cultivation of virtues such as courage, wisdom, and temperance. We have deontology, emphasizing duty and moral rules. Actions are right if they follow universal principles, regardless of consequence. As well as utilitarianism, which argues that the right action is the one that maximizes overall happiness or well-being. These theories offer different answers to the same moral questions, and that's where much of philosophical debate lies. So, if we briefly summarize what we covered today, we know that ethics is a disciplined study of how we ought to live. It is rooted in morality, the beliefs and norms people hold and are guided by values, the principles we consider most important. While morality may vary across individuals and cultures, ethics offers us a framework to critically examine those beliefs, to reason about our choices, and to engage in meaningful moral discourse. As we move to continue with these little lectures, remember, ethics is not about finding one correct answer. And even though some answers may be more defensible than others, that's not the underlying goal. It is about thinking deeply, speaking clearly, and acting responsible in a complex world. And with that, we begin our journey into the heart of moral philosophy. I hope you join me next time, my little pupil.